Welcome back to another episode of the I Hate Insurance podcast. This is the second time we've done this today, third time now. But yeah, welcome. We got Steve Beutler from Naples, Florida in today's episode, and we talk about why Steve hates insurance. Steve's going to tell us a little bit why he hates insurance, and we welcome Steve on the show. Steve, tell us why you hate insurance.
Hate insurance for a variety of reasons, Parker.
What are one of the reasons? We heard the variety part.
What's the most important reason that you hate? What gets your goat?
Yeah, I think just the misunderstanding from all parties involved, from the owner of the policy or the purchaser of the policy, the client, to the broker or agent who is selling that policy, to the underwriter who is underwriting that policy, to the carrier who's backing it financially, and then the claims adjuster, and then the lawyers. And it's all a jumbled mess from bottom to top to bottom, and we got to fix it. And I do believe that the preacher to my left has got the concept. I think he's got it in his head. We just got to learn. We got to execute it. Yeah. We've got to get this message out.
The preacher ain't very smart. He's not good at school stuff. So you got to get it out of the brain, right?
Yeah, you got to get it out of the head and into action. And I find myself talking to myself constantly, and I have all of these ideas, but I can't just quite articulate them to Rick. But he's got the answers, and I'm a believer in it. But you ask me what I hate all of it from the beginning to the end and everywhere in between, and it's getting worse all the time.
What do you think that if you get to the bottom of a problem, you normally find you making a mistake? Like if you're an alcoholic, you're drinking too much, so stop drinking. Right. So what do you think, what are the two parties? And I think it's clear that they're both doing something wrong. And if you corrected that one thing, so what are the parties trying to do to each other?
It's as if they're all trying to take advantage of each other and get an edge. I don't like deals where somebody's trying to get an edge on the other person, or what's your angle? Why are you doing this? You and I have talked a lot about it. Deals should be a win-win, right? It should be a win-win. Or maybe I could even say this in a good deal. Everybody's given up a little bit of something maybe they didn't want to give up. And that generally, if you both are giving up something, it's probably a win-win. And I think that the brokers approach it as, how can I save you money? I swear, if I hear that term one more time, it makes me sick. I'm going to save you money. In what aspects of anything, when you're saving money, are you getting the best of it? Hardly ever.
So again, if you're a fiduciary, which is what I think an insurance professional should be, you should tell people what a claim looks like.
Absolutely.
Right. And so in the liability world, what I've done since 1985 is I tell people, look, when we're in a frivolous lawsuit, we're going to spend all kinds of money because it's a jumbled mess. The lawyers get rich like a bad divorce. And then they're going to tell you to settle. That is going to come. And that's when you have to stand up and do the right thing and say, no, I'm not going to do it. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to settle. Right. So to me, that's what I try and tell people is what a claim looks like. Everybody in our business is selling or buying price. Can you beat their price? I'll let you quote my insurance if you can get me a cheaper price. And so again, let's go to the claim. So we look at what you're not covered for. And what you're not covered for, you have to pay 100% out of your own pocket, like flood.
Right.
Like your deductibles that you can't pay. I mean, we as the insurance industry keep increasing rates and increasing deductibles, and the lawyers are laughing at us because we make unhappy customers, which is like a bus accident. At a bus accident, lawyers show up. When you take people's money and they end up in a bus accident or on a dead-end road, the lawyers show up. That's how the lawyers in Florida got rich suing stupid homeowners approach. So the way to win the homeowners approach, you could go to court and win if you would have sold it like a mortgage. If you would have walked them through the claim and said, look, you're going to be screwed because you don't have flood, you don't have your deductible, you can't execute. And if they would have said, okay, I'm good with that and signed on it, then our legal system would let you go to court and win. But insurance is so sloppily sold and both parties are trying to screw each other,
right,
that there's no actual good documentation, starting with the application that the insured should fill out, that most agents fill out for
I
them.
love what you just said, sloppily sold. That summarizes what I'm trying to say. You know, when I start out, and however it happens, I get in a meeting with someone because they need to procure some insurance or they're unhappy or whatever. Okay. I come in there and I've got these applications that need to be completed. And so I get all the answers to all this stuff. Then I send it to an insurance company. And generally, I don't even get an answer. What I send you? Did anybody receive it? Okay, because nobody answers the telephone. I don't know why we give insurance companies telephones, because the underwriters don't answer. Nobody answers. They never answer.
And when they do, they say no.
No, goodbye. Then I actually wonder if there is an underwriter behind the scenes that reads all this stuff that they ask for. And it's a lot of information, Rick. You know what it takes to look at somebody's information, and I question, because they'll ask me a question and I'll go, well, did you read your application? Because I wrote it down. Did you actually look at what I sent you? Oh, I didn't know that. Well, did you know that the standard applications ask that information and it's on there? Okay, so then you think, what kind of quote am I going to get? Then when they come back to you, they say something like, well, we've had a lot of claims in this area. We played a nuclear verdict on this in Orlando. Okay. Oh, so you're not going to write this one? They're all bad because one of them was bad? Yeah, we're going to go away from that. Oh, okay. And so that's so frustrating. Or as I think I said another time to you, we don't want to write that building because it's too old. Well, how do you know? You don't even know what the building looks like.
Some of the best buildings we write, one in Naples, it's an old log over a pond.
Yeah.
We've insured it for a long time, never had a claim in any of the storms.
Yeah,
so just because something's built old doesn't mean anything. Just because it's within a fire zone or a zip code, there's stuff in Biloxi that was on the south side of the railroad tracks, which was kind of the line of where you didn't write. And we wrote them and they didn't flood because of the topography and the lay of the land. But you need to actually.
Yeah. And I'm also aware that when you had, was it Katrina? You were boots on the ground immediately.
Yeah,
down there. But it brings me to another point. Where do we begin? Then, God forbid, you get into a claim scenario. Then it feels like to the clients, how do we get away with not paying this claim? We took all your money, but we want to argue with you, and everybody's going to get a lawyer, and we're going to drag this out. Or the opposite happens. We're just going to settle this, even though you didn't do anything wrong. I've had carriers pay clients' claims, and they weren't even on that particular job site.
Does any insured out there think that they can have claims and not get canceled? Right. I can tell you that I know that they don't report stuff. They don't trust their insurance. They bought the cheapest thing. And like you said earlier, they're just going to use it when they absolutely have to.
Right. And when they start paying their own claims, that's bad. Right. I always say, from a liability standpoint, you don't get sued. I mean, unless you're dealing with a real terrible individual. If you do the right thing, generally, you don't get sued. So you're building a house and they say, hey, my roof leaks. You go out and fix it. They don't sue you.
Right.
Right. And
you can't actually.
Right.
You went and fixed it.
Because you went and fixed it.
Right. And if you do the right thing, I call it heading the lawyers off at the pass or benching the lawyers. If somebody dies on your trip and You don't call them. You don't follow up with them. You don't go to the funeral. We coach people to do that.
Right.
And then say, we're here. We know you can get a lawyer. You don't need to. If you think we did something wrong, tell us what we did wrong. And if we did, we want to fix it. If we didn't, we'll share with you our evidence, which is if you get a lawyer, that's what all it comes down to. You're going to go to court. You're going to decide who's liable, and then you're going to decide damages. We can do that without a lawyer.
Let's talk about auto for a minute in the realm of things I hate. I remember when I first started in Florida doing this, let's call it like 25 years ago, you could write a pickup truck with $1 million liability limit for $900. Okay. That price today, if you're in the construction world or something and you're driving a Ford F-150 around or Chevy Silverado, whatever it is, those are now $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. Okay. Well, what has happened? Well, the lawyers, okay, and we've talked about litigation and dragging these claims out.
Okay, so first you have...
But I want to give you a scenario.
I know, but when you talk about the price going up, when it's cheap like that, everybody gives all their employees trucks. Every salesman gets a car.
Yeah.
And we know what people do after hours. So when you have people with $1 million limits that probably shouldn't have them out driving around a corporate truck, and then they get in accidents after they've drank, that increasing the number of claims, having a growing number of claims is a problem. And the insureds are the ones who can control that.
Yep.
They can reduce them. You can't ever get rid of all of them, but you can not let people take trucks home and stuff.
I want to give you a specific example. I bet I get a call like this twice a month. Here's the phone call I get. Steve, we were driving, our employee was driving the truck and somebody smacked into him. It's not our fault. The police came. It's not our fault. However, we need a truck. So we're going to need to get a rental truck or we're going to need to get something. And whoever hit us has, no
coverage.
Or their insurance company is not calling us back. Their insurance company is saying they don't have a claim filed. We got to get this moving. What do you want us to do? Now, I've literally had clients, they don't have time to screw around. And I feel like this is something you would do. They just go buy a new truck and they're like, we'll figure it out later. Right? That's what you would do. You just send your guy down there and be like, I need 2 trucks and I need them right now. And I don't care what color they are. Get them over here immediately. And I don't want to spend 5 hours doing paperwork. I already have enough jobs.
Right.
Okay. I can hear you saying that. So they'll go buy, but the poor guy who can't, let's say, he's new in business.
Even if you go buy a new truck, you still have to deal with the claim.
I know, but I want to tell you what happens. So these guys, then they go, I guess, Steve, I have to turn it into my carrier and let my carrier go after the derelict person who hit me. Mm-hmm. So they do. And then their carrier penalizes them and says, well, you have a frequency problem. And it goes right to your point. They didn't do anything wrong and they're getting penalized because something showed up on their loss history for which they didn't do. You don't do that. Oh, another thing we should say in the podcast, I'm not, is this are we on a video?
We're recording video.
Okay, so Rick and I have developed a deal. We argue a lot, and we're actually having
We don't argue. We just have passionate opinions.
Yeah, we're having a good day today, but we've instituted raising your hand when somebody goes off on a preaching tangent, which I just did. And Rick, you have the floor. Go ahead, raise your hand again for the camera. Rick, what do you need?
So, and again, this is me being an insurance guy and trying to make happy customers. So
right.
When you buy auto and I buy auto and you run into me and it's your fault, or you run into my boat and it's your fault, my carrier doesn't think they're my good neighbor, right?
Right.
They read the policy. I'm not a good neighbor. I'm reading the policy. And so I had a claim just like this, right? Guy runs into me. I have an insurance company.
Uh-huh.
And I report it to them.
Were they a good neighbor?
They were not a good neighbor and are not a good neighbor. But they don't get...
Were they on your side?
No, they weren't. They had bad hands.
You know,
all of the, they melted at the time I needed them. So,
okay.
Anyway, I feel like if you call me, I insure you, and somebody crashes into you and it's not your fault, I should act like a good neighbor. I should take care of you. You want to buy a new truck? Okay. Report the claim to us. We will make a subrogation claim against the guy that's responsible, and we'll get the money, and you won't have a claim.
Mm-hmm.
But the insurance companies today actually make it more painful because they're protecting their own, money.
Uh-huh.
They don't want to do their whole job. They want to just pay what the policy says. Isn't part of your job as being a good neighbor, a good insurance company, taking care of me?
Yes.
And it's free, right?
Yes.
You're managing the claim anyway and paying as little as possible. What you should do is aggressively represent your insured. Oh, that's what lawyers do. That's why lawyers, you wrong somebody, you need a lawyer to protect your rights. And they do that. That's their job. Our job is to not make lawyers rich by doing everything that expands the litigation and the waste. And that's why everybody hates insurance. That's the name of this podcast, by the way. I hate insurance.
Hey, do you ever remember when you were? Hey, do you remember? What can you call on me?
Yes, it's your turn.
Do you remember? I remember when I was a kid in school, I used to go and the teacher would yell, be like, "Oh!" You would say, "Oh!" I don't know why. Did you ever do that? Like when you knew the
answer,
you're like, "Oh!" Or if you had your hand up for so long, you'd have to brace it on the desk like this.
That means the teacher thought you were obnoxious and wouldn't call on you. That's why you had to hold it up.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on,
Steve again. Steve.
But listen to this. My own insurance company, who I actually have represented for years and sold a lot of business to them. For them, I had this car, and it was a classic car that I really liked, and it wasn't all that expensive or anything. I paid like $17,000 for this car, okay? And I'm driving this car, and this guy in one of these big jacked up pickup trucks, kind of like the thing that you drove me here today, that big Delphi thing. Defco or whatever. Defco or Def?
DEFCO.
Defco. Okay, anyway. Do you know we were up there with the semi trucks? I mean, you are up there in that thing.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting run over.
By the way, though, that thing needs a wash and a vacuum. But all the people that work here, I would think that.
Well, off topic, Steve is kind of the clean freak. You go to his house. It's like,
and by the way, you're talking about boats. I'm an excellent boat driver. I've never
operate the surgery room in Steve's kitchen.
Oh, and that's fact.
There ain't a toaster on the counter, so you can just slap the meat on the counter.
His face is like, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm already getting skeeved out. But now listen, I'm driving this car that I paid $17,000 for, and this jacked up pickup truck Defco thing cuts me off, and my socket to my headlight gets caught on the guy's trailer hitch. This is like 2 years ago. And now I'm fishtailing on the road. Okay. And he ends up like this. And I'm underneath his Defco or whatever it was. And boy, was I.
Defco. This is a disclaimer. It was a big truck. It wasn't a Defco.
Disclaimer. I don't even know what Defco means.
I like how he goes close to the mic for that, but every other time he's like,
excuse. And he actually puts on a little nicer voice. He's like, excuse me.
Defco. To clean it up for you, Steve.
Yeah. So anyway, I go under the jacked up truck. I think it was a Jeep. I don't know. I don't even remember, but whatever. The point is this. My own insurance company says to me, well, we've done the research and, it's $8,600. I go, excuse me, it's 17. That's what the thing is. And I literally had to go.
$17,000.
$17,000. They want to give me $8,000, and I had to go do all this research, like a research project to give them the stuff. Mm-hmm. And finally, I end up calling someone way higher up in the company, long story short, and he gives me my local claims guy who I've dealt with for 20 years. He goes, Steve, tell me what you need a check for. I'll write it. And he was over there the next day.
Right.
But to think that I'm arguing over this, and I've been a customer of theirs for 20 something years. And that's what happens to people. They pay premium for all these years. And then when they file a claim, it's like they get spanked.
You have no history. You have no credibility for all of that year.
All the
They
time.
treat you just like a new guy they wrote yesterday.
Exactly. Like yesterday's newspaper. By the way, I don't know if you read newspapers, but I like a proper paper. I want to put my hands on the paper.
I read so much legal and apps.
Yeah, I don't want to read it online, though. I don't want to read it online. I want to hold it in my hand.
You've read the Bible how many times?
3. And I'll tell you this, too.
Most knowledgeable preacher I know right here. He can go toe-to-toe with anybody on religion.
I don't want to pick up the used newspaper in the airport. I'll go buy a new one. I don't want, like, if you read it, I thought you were a cheap bugger. I thought you'd just steal somebody else's used paper. No, if it's
the germs.
Yeah, I am a germaphobe for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely the germs. It had nothing to do with wanting a new paper.
But don't you a fresh, crisp paper?
Yes.
So we met Steve down in Naples, Florida. We do a lot of these summits we talked about. And Steve has helped us with some of these summits, fishing. We stole his.
Don't get me started. Do not get me started.
And so where were you going?
So, I mean, we wanted to talk about the summits a little bit and how other agents and insureds can come on these summits. So, Steve, kind of tell us about the summits you've been involved with, maybe. What have we done?
Yeah, I've been on some summits for sure. I didn't know they were called summits. But what have we done? Well, we came out to Utah. It's Heber. Is that it? Heber, Utah?
Yeah. Heber.
Near Park City. And we got on these.
That's how you know pilots aren't local. They don't call it Heber. They call it Herber.
Herber
City on the airport. I always correct them.
Herber City.
Herber.
Over. So we got on, what do you call those dune buggy things?
Oh, we went UTV in, remember?
UTV in. Yeah. And the best one, you have this guide, and I think you insure him. Yeah, he rents this stuff out. Yeah. He's a wild man.
Adventurage.
Yeah. And he comes over and I wake up, I come out in your driveway. There's like 8 of these things sitting in your driveway. And then he goes, normally I lead the thing, but with Rick, I let him lead and I go in the back. Because he goes, and you'll like it because Rick drives a little faster. Yeah, right. So we did. And I think I got, one time we came out here, I brought.
Did we ever go snowmobiling?
I brought our grocery store guy out here and we went snowmobiling and that was good. I would have liked to have been a little more aggressive. But
we put him on a turd of a snowmobile. We didn't trust
him. I was one of the only few guys, though, that were able to climb that very steep hill. Yeah.
Steve's always a stud.
Without
we
flipping
fished
the thing.
In the Keys.
We've been in the Keys multiple times. Right. Do you remember the first time I met you at that restaurant? I told you that story. I'm like, this guy you have no coverage.
Yeah. I mean, really, most people are more self-insured than insured.
That's right.
Never looked at it.
That's right.
That was the first time you met him?
I did. And I told him, I go, you'd love this proposal because 5 minutes I met him. I didn't know him from anyone.
This is when you met my dad.
Yeah. Yes. First time I met Rick.
He was talking about a guy he'd just been with. Reviewing his quote.
And the guy's like, I want a proposal from you. And I go, here it is. And I get out a sheet of paper and I write, you have no coverage. Okay. And I go, the beautiful thing about this is we can accentuate any of the 5 words. I can go, you have no coverage. You have no coverage. You have no coverage. You have no coverage. And,
it all means the same thing.
No, but this is how people buy insurance. And you know what? This kind of feeds right into our thing, our topic here. He looks at me and he goes, well, how much is it going to cost to get insured? Like, are you going to save me any money? And this guy's premium's like 7 figures, okay? I go, actually, I think it'll be pretty reasonable. And he goes, well, how do I know that you're going to give me the best price? You gave me a range within 30%. I go, it just depends how I'm feeling that day. I don't know. If I'm in a bad mood, it's going to be higher.
So keep me in a good mood.
Yeah, be nice to me.
That's not the
But
right
imagine,
answer,
no,
Mike.
it isn't.
That's your smart ass young answer.
But imagine you tell somebody you have no coverage and they start talking to you about the price.
Right.
Really?
Right.
And that's how people think. And that's another thing. That's what I hate about insurance in general, from the carrier to the client to this. Now,
But when you meet people, and again, my whole career, I've met people that can get no coverage. Even the coverage where they have no coverage,
yeah, they can't even
get that.
That's amazing.
And they are way, they're way better to deal with than the guy searching for a cheaper price.
No doubt.
With no coverage.
No doubt.
Right. So that's why it's been, I don't call it's a blessing or whatever, but because I didn't want to do the normal stuff, I wanted to do the hard stuff. And, again, we do this. We got a call yesterday from this guy that takes people to Mount Everest, and I've insured him forever, and most of the other people that do. And we've had deaths and claims there. But he has 3 policies. Got one policy with Arch Insurance on his travel agent soft stuff, and then he's got a policy here in the U.S. for his guiding, and then I do and I didn't know he had the other 2 policies. I was like, so why do you have 2 other policies? That's kind of a red flag, right? You're buying cans of corn or avocados at the grocery store.
Avocados.
It's a strategy that should be overall, not show up at the grocery store because you don't have a line that day.
Absolutely. And I think most people, if they just take a minute to hear this, I think they could hear it. I'll tell you, another thing I hate.
They get it.
They get it. Yeah, they'll hear it. They get it. Man, if you're out there and you're dealing with your army buddy, I hear, we should probably look at your insurance. I deal with this. My brother-in-law handles it. Oh boy. Oh boy. My golf buddy.
And all the brother-in-laws.
Hey, most of my,
probably some good.
What's funny? Most of my customers don't even like me. Right. But they know, I'm taking care of the insurance piece, but they're not they don't want to hang out with me. I hang out with you.
Yeah. As long as you can put up with me.
Yeah.
I think you go in your bedroom and just scream into the pillow.
As long as you raise your hand, that's all. And keep the kitchen somewhat clean.
Yeah.
So, I
that's the problem. I thought my job was to make the kitchen dirty.
Oh.
I didn't know I was on cleaning crew. Is that what I upset you? How I upset you?
Well, I'd like to see a little more effort.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm always willing to
I feel like there's 2 things you can control, Rick. You can't control a lot. I think you would agree with that.
I know.
Can't control the weather, but you can control, we could say this about anybody. You can control your attitude, right? You don't have to have a bad attitude. We can turn those frowns upside down. Right? We don't have to have bad attitude, and we can control the effort that we give.
That's exactly.
Okay, so as far as controlling effort and things you can control, for young people getting into the insurance industry, each of you guys answer this. What's a pointer that you would give them going forward from now? What's a piece of advice you would give a young insurance professional?
I think regardless of what avenue you're pursuing in the insurance business is fantastic, because you could be in the underwriting side, the carrier end of things. You can be in claims. You can be in loss control. You can be in sales. So there's a lot of different career paths, but I think number one, you have to educate yourself. I think, I deal with people in this industry all day long. They don't know what they're talking about. They literally do not know what they are talking about.
So where would you get education for?
Well, I deal with a lot of people, and I had no formal education. I jumped in the swimming pool and I started swimming, and I educated myself. I read the legal cases. I read, how can we change this? And so you educate yourself over time. If you wait till you have all the education
Agreed.
To be an expert,
I agree.
You're never going to do anything.
I agree with that.
Jump in and start swimming.
And it's always changing. So you have to read the articles. You have to, I think a lot of people, to keep your insurance license and so forth, you have to do continuing education every year, depending on what state you're in. That's just a basic. You have to be learning about various coverages.
I would also say you want to, all of coverage, what's business interruption, what's, XCU, exclusion or explosion, collapse, and underground. There's all kinds of things you learn every day, and you think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get this. But you only need to know what's relevant at the time.
Do you remember the silica exclusion?
Yeah.
Silica.
So, but common sense, that's everybody. When I talk to underwriters and actuaries and people that would make me feel stupid with big words in their education, never made common sense.
Right.
Because they're looking at a little sliver. Common sense means you apply, all the full spectrum of from underwriting it and issuing the policy to ending the claim. You can't just do one silo of it and be good.
And when they talk about educating, I mean, how about this? You ask me a question. If I don't know, how about this? Rick, that's a great question. I don't know, but I'll go find out. Right? That's educating yourself. Go find out. Don't make up some answer.
Yeah. When I used to, when it was me doing outfitters and guides and, my dad and my brothers, I would hire lawyers and pay them out of my own pocket. I would hire risk managers. I would call the experts. I did everything because I was curious and I challenged common sense. Now I got 300 employees. Lawyers, risk managers, and again, not everybody knows everything, but if you have a team of people or you have resources that you can go get, either you have to pay for the resources.
Right.
That's why most people don't hire a lawyer to do their release form or their contract. They steal their competitions. We had one person here locally. They called up and said, these guys are using our release form. And I'm like, how do you know? They're all the same. They didn't even change our name. Our name is still in their release form. So I know, people don't want to do it. That's why, again, as your insurance carrier, we review your contracts. We do all that stuff because we have to execute in the claim. And when I would say as an agent or a broker, that doesn't make common sense to me, we should give it to them. The insurance companies would say, we'll be sued when it doesn't work. And I said, you understand you're already getting sued.
Yeah, you're getting sued no matter what.
You just don't have a weapon to defend yourself.
Right. And, I can countless indemnification agreements, they're state specific depending on the state laws on the indemnity law. Right. Every state is different and they hold you to different.
And making offers of judgments. And so,
so you and I were sitting here talking about all this stuff. And yet people buying this stuff are like, well, what's your price? Yeah. Well, what's your indemnification look like?
Depends what you want.
Right.
Do you want to fight or do you want to settle?
Right.
If you want to settle and pay everybody that shows up at your doorstep, the price is, you won't be able to afford the price.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I hate to be Mr. Negative Pants, and
you just talked about having a good attitude, but go ahead, Mr. Negative.
No, I'm not gonna. No, I'm gonna say the whole thing. I hate insurance and all this. It's like Mr. Negative Pants.
We don't hate insurance. That's just a catchy.
Is that the catchy title?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. All right. That must be why this thing is
just blowing up,
going viral.
And after your episode, it's gonna.
Nobody cares about what I have to say. I'm a simple man.
No, you're famous.
Yeah. I am a simple man.
Steve Beutler.
But
takes.
All right, can I ask you guys questions?
To a new level.
On one of the summits I was on, it wasn't too long ago. We were down in the Key West, and we had like a lifetime Key West guy on the boat with us, Neil, and
he's one of our partners.
He's kind of a pirate kind of guy, He's a
Key West.
Yeah, I mean that's
connected guy.
Yeah. If you're in Key West, and you're born and raised there, you kind of are a pirate, and that's not
I
negative.
I could tell you 1,000 ways he's helped me. Win-win, dude.
But here's what I want to say: I think you bought some building down there and you're doing podcasts there or something?
Well, it's called
Like
the
a
coffee
coffee?
mill.
Yeah.
It was built in 1901 as the original coffee mill. It's still there.
Do you
It's
have all this
historic.
gear, like these microphones in there?
Well, Parker has a mobile
Kit. I have a
setup.
mobile kit I take down
But we
there.
really
Oh, you have
just-
a
we got
mobile
a mobile
kit.
We just use it really during the boat races to do the
well,
live streams.
let's go down there and do some podcasts.
We can.
I want to
Let's-
check out the coffee.
The next podcast with Steve will be in the coffee mill.
Or if you get your newfangled thing, we could put it on the boat and do a podcast from the boat, and then I can do a proper tutorial.
show them the summit. Maybe
Show
we'll
them what
just
a
go
summit
live.
looks like.
If you followed RJ on Instagram, you know he goes live. We'll just go live. You were on one of his lives.
I didn't know I was live. Did you see him messing with the alligator on my golf course? Did you see that?
I mean,
It
he
was
goes
bigger
live
than
a
him.
lot. If I
And
watched all his lives, I'd be watching him.
Okay, well, let's
24/7.
just say this. We're on the golf course, and this alligator had to be 12 feet long, and my golf ball is right under its arm because it's on the fairway, and Rick walks up there, and he's messing around with the alligator, and then the alligator opens one eye, and then the alligator opens the second eye, then the alligator opens his mouth, and Rick's still standing there, and he goes, yeah, I don't get nervous till he moves his legs. And then he moved the first leg, and then he moved the second, and then Rick's like, time to go. Meanwhile, I'm so nervous, I have an 80-yard shot that I chunked twice
in the lake.
into the lake and wherever else. I'm like, we got to go, man.
Well,
No, I didn't know he was recording all of it, but he didn't record when he went through the windshield.
That was a very nice golf event at
Old Florida.
Old Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
Where Steve's a member. Special place.
Old Florida. And I'll tell you, that's the kind of that'd be a nice account for you. I'm not their agent, but you saw everything out there. They're good people.
Yeah. That's what we want.
That's
Good
what we're
people.
looking for, right? That's what every carrier.
Partnership's not a policy. If you're buying policies like avocados at the grocery store, you're going to be sad. You get a partner that sticks with you through the bad times, the bad years, they pay and keep insuring you.
Yeah.
On your worst day, they would say, I got to increase your rate. They wouldn't abandon you.
Yeah.
And that shows that you have fake insurance when you're standing on the side of the road abandoned with the good neighbor having driven off.
Yeah. They're no longer on your side and you're melting.
well, any last thoughts before we close it up?
Now let's go feed and trough ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I know is, I got on a plane this morning. I don't know, sat behind Rick and some other highly successful guy. He was in the clean business or something. He
builds clean rooms.
Clean rooms. Okay.
And
then I ate a bagel and I landed here, got in the big truck, the Defco, and I came here to have a podcast with you fine folks.
Yeah. And it's been a fine day.
And the next time you see me, I'm going to have a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Next episode. So if you listen to the podcast and you want to be like Steve, come hang out with Rick for the day. Come be on the podcast or go on a summit, go fishing, UTVing. Let us know. Send us a DM.
The ideas of the summit are small groups. We've refined it. If you're in an industry, you're an agent with an idea, you're in the trash business, towing business, and you want to form a partnership with an insurance company, give us a ringy-dingy, and we'll get a couple of your compatriots in the business, and we'll get together. We'll start the beginning of a new partnership, and then we'll offer to insure other good people in your industry. The bad people, we can't ever get rid of. They're all going to be there, but we can underwrite.
Yes, we
Same
can.
with the bad risk. If you have a house that's going to flood, we're going to underwrite it properly because we're going to have to fix it. And again, if you can't pay your deductible, what are you going to do with other insurance companies? They don't have an answer. We have a provision in our policy where we loan you the money and we fix it because we're your partner, and we don't gain anything by making it more painful and not repairing a house and letting it rot away. So it's outcomes, right? If you're never going to have a claim, you can keep buying insurance like avocados. But when you're as old as I am and you've seen what I've said, everybody eventually has claims, and you do need a good partner. People who claim to be a good neighbor, I'd ask them to prove it. Yes, sir.
I got to go eat something. I'm hungry.
Me too. Okay.
Okay, guys, we'll see you on the next one. If you want to be on the podcast or come on a summit, we'll share a link where you can get entered in. But we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.